And from that, the risk is high, because what he's saying, again, in his own words, is that, a good investment or good debt can become bad debt, even though the intention was for it to be good debt, simply because of an unforeseen factor such as the renter leaving. So he's admitting, Mr. Kiyosaki himself, that debt is kind of dangerous, if you don't understand it. If you have the leverage to offset the risk, then that's a different story. Robert Kiyosaki. I've actually been to one of his seminars about real estate. I thought it was him showing up, but it was one of his sales agents. But I want to hear his thoughts about debt, good versus bad debt, and find out if he knows what he's talking about or if he's just talking gibberish. When I was younger, I'm like, this guy is rich, whatever he says is gospel. Have my thoughts changed? I haven't seen his thoughts again in about 5 years, so I have more knowledge now.
Andra, and we're doing another Millennial Money. And I'm very excited about this program, so thank you for tuning in.
Okay.
This will be one of 10, and we don't know which order they're coming in. So what are some of your questions when people say get out of debt? What comes to your mind?
When people say get out of debt, I think about credit card debt, the student loan debt, all that negative debt that people use for shopping and personal things.
And is your idea of debt good or bad?
I have a very negative idea or connotation towards debt. And that's because that's what we were taught in the school system and the traditional education system, that it's not so great. But because I work here and I have these resources and I've gone to your seminars, I understand that debt can be powerful and it can be used in a good way, and it could generate you money.
So for those listening, debt is a 4-letter word for most people. There are many people in my position, so-called financial gurus, who say live totally debt-free. And there's other people who say, cut up your credit cards. And, that's good advice for certain types of people. So you should definitely cut up your credit cards if you don't know, you can't control your spending. You should definitely.
Yeah, but how many people are in denial? Mr. Kiyosaki.
But I don't know how people live without credit cards. I don't know how you can check into a hotel, rent a car,
very easily,
go shopping and go out for dinner.
Very easily.
But you should cut up your credit cards if you're a shopaholic. That's good advice.
Most people won't admit that.
And the other thing about debt, there's good debt and bad debt. So this is going to be the lesson today, is there's good debt and bad debt. And if you only have bad debt, which I classify student loan debt as bad debt, the main reason it's bad debt is because it's the worst possible type of debt. You see, if I get into trouble as a businessman with debt, I can declare bankruptcy and I'm clean. But the trouble with student loan debt, you can't do that. It hangs around your neck for the rest of your life. So if you're a student, you shouldn't take on student loan debt unless you absolutely 100% guaranteed that you will commit to graduating. So have you seen a lot of kids drop out of school?
Oh, yeah.
And so the problem with student loan debt is a person has to know what are they going to study. I have 2 friends, they're both medical doctors. And they came out of school with $500,000 in medical debt, in student loan.
Good debt and bad debt. I would call education good debt. I agree with that, as in it can be good debt if you plan to graduate, come what may. But I guess you are right. If you just plan to just see how it is, then it's really bad debt. So, so far I'm agreeing with you, Mr. Kiyosaki. So let's see.
So numerous people my age actually think debt is horrible. And you just showed us a perfect example of cash flow and how debt can generate income. And many entrepreneurs use this formula to make money on a day-to-day basis.
So what most people do is they have student loan debt, SL, and that debt is going out this way. You know, he doesn't put any money in your pocket. You can say, well, I have a job. Well, that's still you working for it. So I don't work for any of this money here. I do this job once, set the deal up. Every year I add more and more and more of it. I'm borrowing money from here. It's coming here and going this way. So the debt is putting money in my pocket, and bad debt is taking money from my pocket. So the problem is, if you're going to use debt, you've got to be much...
All right, let's analyze this. So what he's saying is that, okay, he takes money, takes out debt, either student loan debt or just normal debt, and he buys assets with debt. And that's good debt because it gives him an income. Then he pays it off. Whereas bad debt, you take it out and it goes straight to the bank and you don't make money from it. So it's about making money from it. That defines it between good and bad. Okay. I don't agree with the idea of taking out debt to buy assets, even though those assets might give you more money in your pocket. For example, taking out a loan to get a mortgage because you can fix that house up to then. Yeah. Because there is a massive thing that's missing from this equation. If any of you have ever studied economics, when comparing two investments, there's a calculation that you have to do to find out which investment is the best. And in that formula, there is a section that I think Mr. Kiyosaki is missing here. And that is the risk factor. I think it's called beta in economics. Part of my degree was understanding, how banks make money and how to also invest and to compare two investment portfolios as well. So from here, he's comparing good debt and bad debt and looking at the risk factors. In the good debt area, I haven't seen the risk factors, the factor of what if you get an investment and that investment doesn't fall through, or you get you take the money out, but it takes you 10 times as long as you thought it would. The interest piles on. What if you take out the loan to get the investment, and you're banking on, paying that off, but the return is less than you thought. There's a economic crisis, so the value goes down. Do you have the resources to fix that? When you're at his level, when you have millions and hundreds of millions in the bank, the risk is virtually zero because whatever goes wrong, you can always offset it. But for somebody who's trying to just, make a decision in terms of, okay, should I now leverage debt? Like he's saying, for good debt, bad debt is, little things like cars and, student loans. But good debt, you can buy assets that appreciate in value and pocket the difference and pay back the loan. Risk is a major factor. For example, if you're comparing two investments, one is, let's say, mutual funds. One is, an aggressive growth, and another one is more in just, a dividend stock that's, not as aggressive, more long-term 15-year-old companies type of, accounts. They could both have the same value portfolio, but looking at the risk factor between those two will make you determine which one's worth getting. Because sometimes the one that has the highest return could be the worst investment because the risk factor is too great. And in his simple diagram drawn up here, I don't see that discussed.
Smarter than this person here. You've got to be very, very smart. That's why I took real estate classes when I was 25, and I've never stopped taking real estate classes. Because you buy a piece of real estate and you make a mistake, this turns into a liability. This, if I get the renter leaves the place, this goes here that fast, and the cash flows that way. Okay, it's going out of my pocket. So it has nothing to do with real estate. It has nothing to do with the car. Nothing to do with student loan. It has to do with these two words here. So good debt, again, is debt when I borrow for this and it puts money in my pocket. If I had a car and I borrowed money from it and somebody rented from me as an Uber driver or something and it put money in my pocket, it would be an asset. My wife and I have a boat, and most boats lose money, but our boat makes money because it's in a charter. People rent my boat all the time. So it has nothing to do whether it's a boat, student loan debt, a house, a car, or whatever. It has to do with these two words here. And so most of the time, you've had accounting classes.
I do.
They don't talk much about this, do they?
This is something they never mentioned to me in college.
Why is that, you think?
Like you mentioned before, there's people that are actually teaching.
There's a reason for that. And it's like, it's two factors again. It's human psychology. It's like, most people don't make good decisions with money. And from that, the risk is high. Because what he's saying, again, in his own words, is that, a good investment or good debt can become bad debt, even though the intention was for it to be good debt, simply because of an unforeseen factor such as the renter leaving. So he's admitting, Mr. Kiyosaki himself, that debt is kind of dangerous, if you don't understand it. If you have the leverage to offset the risk, then that's a different story. So let's say you have £10,000, right? And you take out a £10,000 loan to then invest in something. Because you have that £10,000 there, if the bank at any moment says, you know what, for the next 6 months you need to do this, you can just fully pay that off. But even in that, there's still interest, right? So the risk factor gets diminished when you have other assets to, offset the risk. But when you're in school and you don't understand the risk factor, when you look at the, is it beta or delta? I don't know. Someone correct me in the comments. When you're comparing two investments, if you do it the right way, you would know what's black and white. And especially something as real estate, if you're on like your 10th investment, you're good. If you're on your picking, I'm gonna do my first investment and I'm gonna just hope that the tenant doesn't trash the house, I'm gonna hope that the house will be bought within 2 months, or I'm gonna flip it, but then something happens and it takes 2 years to do the flip. Risk is a massive factor, and it's not taught in certain elements because it's about human behavior. Human behavior is a massive factor. There's a reason why most people are in really bad debt. Mathematically, everybody can get out of debt. All you gotta do is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But people get into debt because they have these little ideas, these grand ideas, and because risk is not put in the factor, the rain comes.
Real life.
A big lesson for you is that it's nothing to do with the house, the car, the student loan. It has to do with where's the cash flowing. If the cash is flowing into your income statement, into your pocket, it's an asset. It's good debt. But
people don't understand that taxes are there, that the rain comes, the cash flow is good. Okay, is that the determining factor? What about peace of mind? Sometimes the best option, even if you can get the money out, that you can leverage it, that, you can find a way to finance things and have people around you and do no money down investments. That's possible, even if you experience the peace of mind that you get from knowing that you can do nothing for 3-4 months and you won't have to panic about an investment, even though it still makes you money. that peace of mind. I know people who've bought, real estate, and they've tried to rent them out, and just the hassle of it, even though they're making money, thousands a month, it's just that hassle. It's like I'm losing years of my life because of all the stress and the uncertainty, and tenants leaving, and paying stamp duty because it's a new investment in a new house. Cash flow, if you can leverage it at a very high level like Kiyosaki is, okay, still not the best. But if you're trying to teach it to the masses, unless you have that leverage, it's bad education. I'm sorry, sir, it's not right.
If it's taking money from your pocket, it's bad
It's
debt.
not black and
There's
white
good
like
debt
that.
and bad debt. Any comments on that?
Well, I think just like Trump, you know how to apply the rules of debt, and he calls himself the king of debt, right?
If you're going to be successful, like whether you're an employee or entrepreneur, you've got to control the direction of your cash.
Yeah, but even that ideology, at the start he said it, where it's like, if you're a business owner, you can just go bankrupt. That's not really being an authentic, genuine person. That's basically saying, I'm going to play with debt, and if things go wrong, boo-hoo, to the other person at the other end. Ugh. I don't know. It's not right.
Flow. So look at most people here, we've talked about it earlier, they get a job and the cash flows out here, goes to the government. Called taxes. Okay. Trump doesn't do this, I don't do this legally. The reason is because we're entrepreneurs, not employees. Employees have this, entrepreneurs don't. Because it's a type of asset.
Yeah, but if we're speaking to individual people, masses of people, it's what's the quickest way to get cash flow, sadly. I guess it is not to go into debt, because debt is the main reason people don't, succeed. Poor money management, because this is taken into the fact that people will make the most rational decision at every single point of their debt journey, and one wrong move can cripple you for a lifetime. Especially, he's talking about numbers like £6,000 or dollars, wherever you are, right? When someone makes such a large mistake, right, it can take someone 10 years to get out of it, even if they're making a large amount of money. If they have large overheads, it's going to be hard to pay that off. Then you say bankruptcy. Okay, well, for the next 10 years of your life, that will be looming over you. You can't do anything ever again in terms of, even get a phone contract out, So, I don't know. I think if you can manage to not use debt, even though you can leverage it better or you can get more money out of it, the risk factor is high. Imagine if you paid for it yourself. That's $6,000. You paid for it yourself. There's no interest on it. Even if it took 2 years to get any profit on it, the risk is basically zero or whatever, a little amount. The risk factor is less if you leverage with your own money than with money you don't have, I'll give an example. Let's say you buy a car, right? Not with debt, with your own cash money, right? And it depreciates to zero, right? You just lost that car, and the money is gone. So it's a problem. But what do you have? You still have to pay that money back and still buy a new car, right? Then you buy a new car. But no, you still have the old car payment plus the new car payments to pay on. Now you are in more debt. Better just leverage the money you have. Debt is, like those factors are not considered. Well, I can just, buy a car and put it on is it eToro? No, that's not. It's eToro. Where you can lease out your car, basically, right? And say, I'll make money from that and get a few cars like that. What if accidents happen? People don't want to lease out your car. There's so many risks. The risk factor. He's not speaking about risk at all. He's just saying, well, if you're bad with managing credit cards, don't use them. It's like, it's people are delusional. I'm sorry. You're delusional. I've said it. You think you can handle a credit card. but you will find reason to justify it. Advice is, okay, things like education, it's fine to use debt. Things like a mortgage, it's fine to use debt. But when it comes to being sophisticated, and there's a reason why banks are still around, it's because people are thinking they can leverage debt the right way. But how come banks are getting richer and you're getting poorer? There's a reason for it. Banks are not stupid. The more we try and become sophisticated, well, I'm going to get this credit card with this amount of points, and this is when you start failing. The way that you win and banks fail is by you leveraging your own money. So do it that way. Well, thanks for watching. He's got a lot of good points, but I think if you spoke more about the risk factor in comparing two investments between good and bad debt, then you would catch me, but that's just basic economics. He's speaking about accounting, but if we go into economics, then we will see what the real issues are with debt. Thanks for watching.